Hey everyone, and welcome to an all new episode of Wicked Unscripted, where we have unscripted conversations about some of the most popular reality shows on television. My name is Abigail Adams. I'm your host for this podcast. Joining me today, per usual, is the lovely Sarah Talks, and we are here to talk about episode 9 of The Traitors. We're getting real close to the end, too. One episode left after this. So, not this
Which,
one, but after this.
yes. I feel like we don't have a whole lot to talk about this episode because, really, not really anything happened. I mean, we got a murder right off the bat, but I mean,
There wasn't a lot of not a ton of plot points, not a lot of shifting in the plot, like
yeah,
we had a lot of that for the first couple weeks, and I mean part of it was us getting to know how they were playing the game. Then other points it was kind of like people heating up in the game, and it's not that the game's not heating up right now, it's just that things are so focused that there's not a ton to like, not as many, nearly as many talking points, but
I mean, I
we
say that, and as I was watching the episode, I was in our Discord being like, I cannot wait to record this episode. I have so many thoughts, which I do.
of
Just
course,
overall structurally about the episode. Like, I have a lot of thoughts
right.
about this episode and certain players and what we saw here.
Oh, still
I
tons.
do absolutely love, though, that we got a recruit
Yes.
and a murder.
So I like this. I am glad this is how the ultimatum played out. I can't remember if we talked about this last week. I think we did. I
Yeah.
really liked this versus how it could have gone with two players. They did it with two players in Canada, and I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I like it with one traitor, not players, but one traitor going to another faithful, not two traitors going to one faithful.
I mean, I
Because
liked it.
I made balloons come up by accident on
I,
the record.
I
Sorry.
don't. Sure, fine, but like, I don't know. I kind of don't really like the you either become a traitor or else kind of mental. I like that there's choice, but I like that there's consequences with the choice. I don't think the consequence should be like you're out of the game because then it's not really a choice.
Yeah, I
However,
don't
it was
disagree.
never up for debate. It could have been like, I'll give you $20,000 to the faithful team or join the Traitors, and Kate was still going to join the Traitors. She made it seem like she was a lot more resistant in that, but I feel like that was more editing,
I mean,
and
and
just
if you
Kate
know
being Kate. Like,
yeah,
she
that's what
wanted
I
to
was
be
just
there
gonna
from
say.
the
If
get-go.
you know Kate, that is so Kate. So I was
Yeah.
just like, yeah, I can feel it. It definitely was
Like,
her
I
just
guess I don't
playing
really have a
into it.
choice. But you weren't, it didn't matter if you did have a choice, you were going to say yes.
Oh, totally.
I do like that, but I like even more that they got this recruit and they were able to go back to the turret to have a murder because we're not used to seeing both. It's
Yes.
usually getting a recruit or no murder, like or murder. It's not both.
Mhm.
Um, I I don't feel like this was the best choice of murder.
Oh, I hated this decision.
I feel like this was fade like potentially could have been. Maybe still is, but no, it's not. But could have been like Phaedra's fatal flaw, like her fatal move for her game.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, and one of the most interesting points, just to like, of the episode in general, the second they get to the turret, Phaedra goes, "Okay, what's the plan?" Kate's like,
Yeah.
"You're
Here's the thing,
asking
and
me?"
Kate said what we've been saying this whole time is that like this isn't a team sport. And we've been seeing this team of traitors pass the baton until it's your turn to murder. It's your turn
Yep.
to murder. It's your turn to murder instead of having like any real strategy behind it, which I believe is why the traitors have had such a really hard time this season. So Kate came into this and be like, what the fuck do you mean what's the plan? Like I just got here. What you tell me what the plan is?" And I agree with her. I think we all agree with her that this isn't a team sport, Phaedra. Like you have the upper hand here. You recruited her. So you're gonna say, this is what we need to do. This is the heat is on me right now. Um Parvati's gone. The heat's on me right now. Who do you think, as someone who just came in from the faithfuls, would help us pivot the direction and the target off of me into somebody else? Like, use Kate, like, strategize with her. Don't just say, like, what's the plan?
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason we're saying this is not the best choice is because, their selection was Kevin. I I don't get it. I do, but I just don't. There have been so many people, um, that were okay, here's why I understand it. The 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 process they went through, or the thought process was, we know who didn't get the shield based on who we were with on one room of the, uh, what's it called, challenge? The cabin challenge from last,
Right.
because the cabin challenge is kind of like the bird challenge from earlier in the season, where Alan actually gave them an opportunity to not reveal who had the shield because some people knew and some people didn't. And the people who knew chose once again to not reveal it. And Trishelle was the person. But, Peter was somebody who could have gotten it. And that was somebody that they genuinely wanted to go for. And they were like, we're not sure if we can go for him."
I don't think the move should have been Peter, though, because if
I
anyone
agree.
stood a chance, we knew that Peter had the second most heat going into the round table. So you don't want to
Right.
take, as much as we all want to see Peter and his demise, and we mirror Phaedra, like her willing, like wantingness to have him gone. That would have been, it would have been a unanimous Phaedra out had Peter been gone. Um, because right now, Phaedra and Peter at this point are the only 2 that have their names being thrown out so much.
Mhm.
And we talked about this last week where they got that momentum up going, and so they're trying to build that back since that twist, the flame torch
Screwed shit
tribal
up.
council twist. Um, but I don't think Kevin was a terrible move here.
I
I
think
don't think it was a terrible move.
it was not their
However,
best,
I do
though.
think that, like, MJ was probably the better choice.
Yeah, I think a lot of that came down to not wanting to off a Bravo person that they are seeing as a number, and trusting that she will be a solid number forever, and as we see in this episode, that's not a
And that's the
guarantee!
other thing too, is she hasn't been a solid number.
Mhm.
She's been straddling the Peter Pals and Bravo this whole time.
Yeah.
It's been very blatantly obvious. She's not hiding it.
Similar to Sandra. Sandra has been doing the same thing. She's largely been not the Peter Pals, but the, old, Gamer Alliance. She's kind of
Yeah.
been with that side, some a little bit with Peter Pals, but she wasn't a member. Um, and just very opposite when it comes to this. So it's just one of or, similar rather, not opposite. So it's just I don't know. It's a decision. I don't think it was the worst decision in the world. I just thought there was a
Better
much
choices. Yeah.
better option, and I don't think ultimately numbers wise this helped whatsoever.
So they did make it seem, and they did make the traitor sweat a little bit when leaving it down to, was it Trishelle or Kevin? Because it let us all, made us sweat a little bit knowing if it's Trishelle or Kevin, because we knew Trishelle had a shield. Um, so there we were kind of sweating, like, oh gosh, did they misfire? Did they misfire again? And
I was actually at one point convinced they had made the shot. Um, she just keeps getting really, really lucky when it comes to getting shields, being in the right place, right time. I just why they didn't do it last week still is beyond me. Like, she was right there for the taking, and that was the time to get her. And it's still really not helping Phaedra that she's around, whatsoever. Not to mention MJ's already on to Kate. Like, in this breakfast,
yes,
literally, like, MJ walks in and goes, "Kate,
I
something's
have lots of
different."
thoughts here because I said, like, Kate would be an incredible traitor. Um, it would be really hard to distinguish her between traitor antics versus just Kate antics.
Right.
However, if she starts acting like not Kate, then that could lead to some suspicion. That is what I said. And yeah, at breakfast, she wasn't being Kate. However, I don't know if this was just like up to editing or something, but it just seems it would be very natural for Kate to say something like MJ was coming on a little strong. Um, like chill out, girl. Kate doesn't wild out at breakfast like ever.
No.
So, I
No,
mean, she
but I
makes some
think it was
snarky comments, but like
I was
right
gonna
off the
say,
bat, you're just looking at her. I'm like, that's her normal resting bitch face. Um, so I don't know. There's something. I don't know if it's a production thing. I don't know if maybe, for all I know, MJ is sleeping in a bedroom near the staircase where people are moving around. I don't know. Maybe she heard something going on in Kate's room and she just.
I
But
think
you
they
know what
stay
I'm
in
saying? Like,
hotels
there's just
overnight.
it. It seemed like she had a little bit more.
Well, one of the things I'm
It was weird. It
wondering,
was just very weird. But Kate could have easily said like, "I have a migraine," or I'm ready to go home,"
you know,
or
something I might go back to look on and, like, possibly follow up on TikTok about is maybe MJ noticed a sudden change in Kate's reaction when she walked in the door. Maybe, like, Kate had a very different reaction the first couple times, and when she walked in that time, Kate just didn't have a reaction or seemed distracted, or her reaction was just not what she was pleased with just in general, and that
mm.
might have been something that tipped her off. I didn't actually, because I know, like, Kate
'Cause I
didn't
don't
have a
ever remember
crazy
Kate being
reaction.
very reactionary at breakfast anyway.
Right. But that's what I'm wondering is, like, maybe she at least showed a little bit of a different emotion and MJ picked up on it right away because MJ is really good at being nitpicky with emotional changes and like, seeing those. Doesn't mean that she always makes the
Yeah, I
best
would be
game
fucked in
move.
a game with MJ because I am fussy pants in the morning, okay?
I know.
Like, or the ADHD meds just haven't kicked in yet, and I'm
Yep.
probably like, yeah,
CP.
really anxious about my friend coming down for breakfast one morning, but then the next morning my friend's walking through the door, but I'm thinking about 20 other things and staring towards the door as I think about those 20 things. Like, I'd be
Oh, yeah.
so fucked.
Oh, no, I'd be like CT spilling the coffee on Sheree's lap.
Yeah.
It's just like, "Oh, sorry." It'd totally be me. So,
I
I
think
get it.
maybe those comments happen a little bit more often, not
Yeah.
specifically at Kate. I could see this being like an editing thing where MJ made a comment like that and they highlighted it because we know she's now a traitor.
Yeah, I don't know, it's interesting, and I'm curious well,
But she
that's a
didn't
good
like
point.
stick to it. She didn't keep harping on it.
I also wonder so, one of the reasons that podcasts like ours kind of nitpick these small details is because editing is everything in these shows, and they pick exactly which moments they do and don't want you to see. So we know there's a purpose for them showing us that reaction and giving us not even just showing MJ say it because like MJ had the reaction when she walked in, but like because Kate had a specific reaction to it where she was like, calm down. So I almost wonder because we don't know what happens at the end of this episode because of a stupid ass cliffhanger. And
I mean, we
um
know and we'll talk about it.
Correct, but technically we don't. But
Right.
we also as a result of that, we also have no indication of who could be the murder for the episode, and I wonder if that could be at least putting her on the radar for the traitors, and if it's
Yeah.
not on the radar for the traitors, then she might be on the radar for the faithful in the
Right.
next episode. I think that could be a possible sign, but it's not that it's like there was anything inherently negative about what she did. I just want to be so clear. It's not
Mhm.
that. It's just trying to piece together what this editing might be and what her storyline has been. Because she's very much, like you said, played the middle, and like now all of a sudden we see her getting caught in the middle. And she has to pick a side right now. Like she can't go either way. They were diabolical for leaving her as the last vote. And again, we will talk about that a little bit more later, but it's just one of those things where going to this moment with Kate, it makes me wonder what the implications are going to
The
be moving
editing,
forward.
they got a lot more creative with the editing this season than they did last season. I hope that it doesn't get too out of hand as the seasons progress, and we get into, like, I just don't trust anything anymore kinda mode. It seemed a little bit more authentic season 1, and as this season goes, like, and then hearing the exit interviews, I'm hesitant. I'm hesitant in this kind of style of editing, so, um it it is what it is. I feel like like when we go on to the challenge too, that just things seem silly that shouldn't be big deals that were made into big deals. And let's talk about the challenge, because
Yeah, so the challenge causes more drama, which honestly I really enjoyed, but it was really frustrating. It was frustrating because I do think it was very trivial, but it created drama that I enjoyed down the line. So just to recap for people who might not remember, this challenge they went to the church, and this is the one where they had to shoot arrows. Um, the last person's name left was going to win the shield, and so they had to shoot arrows at people's names. There were like panels of glass, and every shot that they missed was a loss of $500, and they missed a lot.
yes.
They
But then they eventually figured out, here's where, and this is important for later. They eventually figured out if you don't have to move the arrow up at all, let's just take out the bottom row, because it's on this pedestal. So if
right.
you just keep it without having to lift it at all, you just go left right with it, and they were able to easily take out two of the bottom names, Sheree and fuck, I don't remember. But the bottom names, Trichelle's in the bottom right corner. Okay. They left out in editing what made people shift up to the second row,
Yeah,
because after so many misses,
I think that was interesting. Yep.
the very bottom row was easy to get to because you didn't have to hold the bow up any. You could just leave it completely down and just find a left to right situation. They left out when the pivot to the middle row went, why we didn't go after Trichelle's. And it comes back to Phaedra. So they get all of the middle. And now there's some names left at the top. It comes back to Phaedra. And Phaedra has watched people fail and fail and fail. And she's like, I'm going back to the big. This makes total sense to me. I know why she doesn't want Trishelle to get a shield, but putting yourself in the faithful mindset, this makes sense to me that you just watched like 7 people before you fail again. And there's still one at the bottom that's easy pickings,
But
because
my argument is, why did she have to be the one to do it? She could have just gone to Sheree and been like, Sheree, you need to move it next. When it's your turn, it needs to move, because she already knew that Trishelle was going after her. That's
but
my
because
thing.
everybody was moving up for some reason. Why are we moving up when there's still an easy shot at the bottom?
I think it wasn't that they kept moving up. They were up there for a while, and she was the one that made the decision to bring it back down. And that's why they were like, oh, whoa. And I'm not saying that that's actually a legit, like, whether or not that's legitimate, it doesn't have, it's kind of like intent versus impact. Like, it doesn't really necessarily matter what the intent was. The impact was Trishelle felt targeted, and she has already been going after Phaedra as a traitor. And so she felt like that was her way to keep her away from a shield. That is like why I think Phaedra miscalculated this, because as a traitor, she should have known that should have been a move for anybody else. She could have
I
just,
mean, I
because she
get it.
has
I
sway
get
with
it. I get it.
Sheree.
I just wish that would make more sense to me if I knew why we had shifted off of the easy row.
I
If
also
Yeah.
agree. I think if they're going to build a stronger case with the edit moving forward, I understand that's a small 30-second bit that they're trying to be like, well, we need this time elsewhere. No. We need that time there to have consistency and understand what's going
Mhm.
on. You need to make this story as consistent as possible in order for it to be like believable and not have critiques that are just like, well,
Right.
why did you just arbitrarily pick this and not that? Because it's a very legitimate sound argument in
And
frustration.
even if I was a faithful, I'm sorry, I feel like Trishelle would be, if I'm a faithful, if I'm Phaedra and I'm truly a faithful, I would still go after Trishelle's stained glass because she keeps putting my name in her mouth. And why would I take her?
But I mean,
I would
still
go
no,
after her
because
glass on the bottom row before I would go after Sheree's, who's my friend.
but I would never do that like, I would only go after somebody like that at banishment because it just shows, like, that is a very, like, traitorous move to me. Like, even if you
It's
are
also a
faithful.
Bravo housewife move, though. Like,
It
it could
is, but
very
when
easily
we're
be
not
played
playing
into.
housewives, we're playing traitors.
What I'm saying is it would be in character.
It would be, and I think that's part of why some people so this was an argument that was brought up by Trishelle at the round table, and people were like, not necessarily buying it, and it's, again, I think another one of Trishelle's arguments that's fallen flat, like, she
Yeah.
has the point, she's there, but it's just she's not making it as well as she could, and she was like, "Come on, you didn't see this?" And even though she got a couple people to buy on, it doesn't seem like it
And
was enough.
Kate Kate's been interesting too because Kate's been very vocal and sticking up for Phaedra before she was a traitor and calling people on their like dumb bullshit
Yep.
or stupid arguments. And throughout the episode, through breakfast, through the competition, like Kate just stayed silent, which is the most un-Kate like thing I've ever
Yeah.
seen.
Yep. That's not good trader moves. Stop it.
No.
Both traders were making bad moves this week and unintentionally. It was out of I think they're both on the defensive right now. Excuse me, I do have to cough, but it is
Kate
just
Kate is Kate is the perfect traitor because she has a way of making people feel fucking stupid for saying what they just said. And if she's in a van with people talking shit about Phaedra or putting her fellow trader's name out there, she has an uncanny ability to make them feel stupid for even saying something like that. And it be so perfectly on brand for her. And she just stayed quiet. You're muted.
I thought I hit that back. Sorry. I do that at least once or twice a season, so thanks for that. But I think the moment that she like we saw like a little bit more come out of her was like the moment that they were spying on the conversation after the challenge with
Mhm.
Peter and Phaedra. Um I don't know if we want to move into that. I'm like,
Yeah.
did we mention? Okay,
Yep.
did we mention who won the challenge? I just can't remember. CT got the shield, so that was
Mhm.
big. It came down to him and John, and all of a sudden, John's getting a bigger edit. Before we go into the Peter Phaedra thing, I just want to note John's edit has turned very interesting over the last couple episodes, but I'd say in this episode in particular. Um,
Um, I could see John getting murdered next.
I don't want it, but I think it's gonna happen. I am very concerned.
If I was a traitor, he'd be at the top of my target list.
But I also think that murdering John after what he did at Round Table would be just so obvious that who the
Doesn't
traitor
matter
was.
anymore. I
Does it
wouldn't think it
though?
matters anymore. Peter's got like you know what
I
I mean?
think it
Like
matters because MJ is so on the fence, and if she doesn't realize how much MJ is
but
considering.
MJ's on the fence and John owns his own fence. You can't get John on any you can't get
Very
John on any
fair.
side of the fence. He's gonna
So
think what he's
fair.
gonna think. He's gonna make you think that he's on your side, and at the round table, he's gonna
He's
read a very obnoxious eulogy for you. And I just feel like he's gotta go. You can't work that angle at all. It's not
so
workable.
So I was earlier this week, and I swear TikTok's gonna see this. I am gonna post this probably as one of my first videos. So earlier this week, I was like looking at videos of John because I was just like I knew a lot. Not actually, no, scratch that. I knew a little bit because I knew his name from Brexit. He was obviously like Speaker of the Commons, House of Commons rather. Um, and I'd seen some like viral videos of him in the past being like order, and it's like hilarious. So I went and looked up some videos and like his he has highlight reels of shit of saying stuff like I don't give a flying flamingo what this person thinks. He was literally
I
on
It
60
was
Minutes.
cute for a minute. I just find it really obnoxious now and over the top and too much and
I
not in like
still
a
love
fun,
it.
campy way I like about these
I love it.
shows. Like this last one, I'm like,
Well,
okay,
see,
get to
I
your
get
point.
that it feels kind of like almost like, how Dan did "Let's play a little game," a phrase he used in
Yes.
Big Brother before. It's like, "Okay, we get it. Do love you. This is
Like
fun
it was
sometimes, but it's
great the
overkill
first
a little
time.
bit."
It was great the first time.
He should have saved it for I don't even know. It's just I think it was better for him to use that line with Dan. I don't think he needed it with Parvati. I think the Parvati ship had sailed on in that moment, and I
Yeah.
think had he not done it there and then saved this big eulogy for here, it could have actually swayed some people. But it does seem like now it's that John is just going to go in and be like, here is how I feel, and it's like it does have an impact, but it's kind of like cliffhangers. We're gonna talk about a cliffhanger, right? Cliffhangers only have an impact so often. Like if you're gonna make me wait every single week, it's just gonna be more, oh, I have to wait again, rather than be like, oh, I have to wait, but I'm excited for next week because they don't make me wait for these things, and that must mean this is gonna be really interesting. And it's like there's a point to it, and it's a little bit of overkill, in those both of those senses, in my opinion. Before this meeting with Peter and Phaedra that we are going to be talking more about, John is talking with Trishelle and Peter, about how they can get these numbers because it is a 5-4 split right now. And obviously there can be more than two people that are voted for, but right now the two names on the table are Peter and Phaedra, and it's looking split. They need to sway two people in their minds. The two people that they're targeting are Sandra and MJ. And it's a lot about how logical that they have been when it comes to assessing things in the game. And they think that they're the most likely ones to sway. On top of, there's no way they're swaying Sheree. There's no swaying Sheree. Like they're in oh, and also CT that they were hoping to kind of get on their side because CT can be a logical person. And that was a big risk though, knowing the showmancy things that we've seen this season. But I think he already had voted for her once at this point, right? Am I
No.
wrong? No, he hadn't? Okay, then scratch that. We were waiting for that first vote. He voted for Parvati, right?
Yeah.
Shit. Well, whatever. Sorry. I can't.
It's fine.
This is what happens when we have Peter, Parvati, and Phaedra with P names, and I'm
Oh
trying to
my
keep
gosh,
them
there were so
straight
many of them.
in my brain, and it's not working because sometimes I have to use the letters. It's so hard. It's so hard. Um. So yeah. So before we get to the round table, a couple of the faithfuls end up like spying on Peter and Phaedra in this little conversation. And like this was just probably one of the most chaotic scenes. I had to go back and watch it a couple times to even comprehend what was going on because it was just like a whole
Well, there was a
clusterfuck.
pre-plan before
Like
this.
right,
Peter was gonna go and pull Phaedra away from the rest of the group so
exactly.
that Trishelle could swoop in and convince the rest of the group to vote for Phaedra. So
Yeah.
he was just pulling her aside to bullshit her to
Yeah.
distract her.
Well,
But
and
him
in
pulling
this
her aside distracted everybody. So
exactly because everybody like Kate
he
was
is
like,
looking shady as shit though. Every time you have a private meeting with somebody, they go home.
well, and so what happened was Kate picked up on this pretty quickly that things that because Kate was part of this group that was approached, and they were like, "Look," because it was more about swaying MJ and Sandra than it was about anything else. Um, but Kate was in this group that was being spoken to, and Kate saw that, and Kate saw this opportunity to divert the conversation and be like, "Let's play spies on their conversation." Brilliant move on, in my
Mhm.
opinion. Like, absolutely, this is how traitors should play. So I'll
Yeah.
say, even though she made massive missteps, both of them in this episode, massive accomplishment on Kate's part to come in and swoop in where that could have absolutely destroyed Phaedra's game in a heartbeat had more been said. Um it's interesting to see how this is what kind of little like moments they're picking to set up for the round table, and I think for the next episode and episodes to come because there's only two left. um so getting to the round table, is there anything I missed before that? I don't think
No.
so. Yeah, okay. Hot seat, Peter and Phaedra. Shocker. We already talked about John's little soliloquy. um
The arguments for Trishelle kicked off the arguments for Phaedra being, of course, that Dan pointed her out.
right, which is a very incredibly valid point.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the smoke. That's all I would have needed the last time.
Yep.
But for me personally, that's really all they have.
Yes.
Objectively speaking, every other point, just like last week, that they've made against Phaedra is not unique to Phaedra.
And it's not that these arguments actually couldn't work if they formed them correctly. It's that they're not making the argument they're not their arguments aren't strong when they get to the round
Yeah.
table. Just because a thing happens, you still have to explain to the people who aren't convinced why they need to be. And it needs to be like in court, it's about like proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And the point is because you need to be convinced that that actually happened to convict somebody of a crime. So if we're thinking about it of just convicting, because if Phaedra's a lawyer, this is why Phaedra's really good of at least arguing her way out of it, because she knows she can make it so people are doubting. There cannot be doubt when you are convicting somebody in court, and that is what she is doing. Is she is sowing doubt at the round table, and that is how she continues to get by with that little bit of doubt, because they are not making the most coherent, cohesive argument when they are trying to get her. And it is
I
not
feel
that
like
they don't have the
Phaedra
correct
killed this, though.
points.
I feel
Yes,
like Phaedra, this was
totally.
much better defensively
Absolutely.
this
Like,
week than she was last week.
loved
She
it.
handled herself very Phaedra-like, very faithful-like. Um, I loved when she told Peter, "This is not The Bachelor, and I don't have to kiss your ass for
Ooh,
a rose."
I have been waiting for that comment all season,
Yeah.
and his face after that, I was like, "Oh."
Yeah, he looked
I mean,
like that's like the he you could tell that ate him so much, and then he brought it back up, he's like, "Well, then you said something like that," like,
no, I think he's worried. I think he's genuinely worried about Bachelor Nation seeing that too. Like, I need Bachelor Nation to see that moment. If they aren't I haven't seen a lot of people. I'm like part of the Bachelor Nation Twitter. I haven't seen a lot of people who watch it talk about the show. I don't know why, because this is so entertaining. Peter's season on that Peter's season of The Bachelor was messy as shit. He was a part of a mess on Hannah Brown's season. He literally, for people who don't know, he is known for screwing her 3-4 times in a windmill and her bringing it up in a big breakup because she's just like, because the guy was
he's
a total
just
misogynist.
very, very full of himself, and not in,
That's
like,
the
the
thing.
entertaining,
He's always been that
charming
way.
Johnny Bananas kinda way.
He has always been that way, with that same subtlety that he comes into, not even subtlety, passive aggressiveness almost,
Yes.
where it's just kind of like, oh,
Yeah,
so you know what I'm saying.
I
Oh,
do.
Sarah, if you
I feel
can
like
ever
everyone knows a
see it,
Peter in their life, and it's just he's a very triggering person.
I need you to see Peter's season of The
No,
Bachelor.
not
Yes!
gonna happen.
Yes, I need it. Our fans
Sorry to
need it. Our
disappoint.
fans need it.
I
Oh,
even
you would
tried to watch
die.
a Housewives show,
Oh,
but
I
I did Real Housewives of Dallas because I live in Dallas, and I thought maybe this will at least pique my interest a little bit more. I made it 20 minutes.
see, I'm gonna do Atlanta just because Phaedra has absolutely gotten me obsessed with her. I need to see because I
Is she
also
on
love
Married to
Nene.
Medicine?
Yes. Um, so I'm not sure if sorry, I have somebody texting me and I keep
I feel like
forgetting.
she's on Married to Medicine too, but like we would get more of her in that way. But
Yes, she is
um,
in Mar I don't know how new she is to Married in Medicine. I know she's on recently, but I don't know, like, because I remember looking it up and it said she had only very recently joined the show. Um, but I know she was on because there are a couple sounds that are coming out of, Real Housewives of Atlanta, and I will send you one of them because we both need to make TikToks out of it because it's so good. Because there's, like, Nene Leakes, like, calling out Phaedra, and
oh,
it's so good. Oh, it's Nene Leakes calling out Phaedra, and somebody made a remix to Texas Hold'em by Beyonce. And it's just like dun 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 dun. Dun. Well, the same
love it,
Phaedra. It's so
love it.
good. It's so
Yeah, I
perfect.
loved Phaedra at this round table though.
Yeah.
I,
Oh,
I I thought she did
redemption.
incredible. And what I will say is that MJ sat down and she seemed like she was kind of on board. But as the Peter versus Phaedra argument started flowing, um, it kept cutting to MJ,
And
and her
Sandra.
face was clearly she was making some decisions. And I
Mhm.
know whatever she wrote down on her board was a change in mind or something that she had just decided then.
Oh, yeah. I think she had I think she had her mind mostly made up going into the round table. I couldn't tell you that I think it was 100% though. I do think it was largely, like, made up that she was going into it with a specific decision, but, like, she is one of those people we have found, her and Sandra, and I feel like that was interesting. We found them both in this position tonight, how they have been both playing on the fence,
Uh-huh.
and they have both been put in this position. We know which way Sandra sways.
Kate was way too damn quiet. It pissed me off, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think she's gonna get heat for that in the next episode. That's my guess, because, like, I mean, if MJ picked up on it last week, which is why I'm wondering if MJ could be in trouble for murder, not getting John out would be a mistake in my opinion, though. But yeah, I think MJ is, like,
Kate
kind
could
of
easily get out of this by if anyone made a comment to her just by saying, like, she had a migraine, or she
yeah.
got bubble gut, or she ready to go home, or she's just in a bad mood,
She's
or you
actually
know what I
that
mean?
last one, she's ready to go home, literally almost like a playful comment where it's just something where she's just like,
Just a very
"Man."
Kate comment.
Giving a sassy comment rather than even if it's sassy but serious, make it full sass. Because I feel like any sense of, like, realness, they're gonna question how I don't know. Kate's
No, I don't mean
negative is
that in the way
not,
that
like, a
somebody else would
thing.
say, "I'm ready to go home." I mean that in, like,
Oh,
how
right.
Kate would say that shit,
Oh,
like
no, right, and I'm
yeah,
just saying, I feel like any sense of negativity on Kate's part is, like, always gonna play into her favor. It's
yes.
just, like, when it's, like, something like I don't know, I'm trying to, like, peg what it is because, like, she always wants out, right? She literally always
She's
talks
snarky.
about it,
She
I
is to
love it.
stay snarky.
When the snark feels more serious than snark, I think is when that could cause problems for her. That
Yeah,
was what I was trying to get to, so
yeah.
thank you for helping me with my words. I do actually think that as a traitor, that could be her downfall. I still would have loved to have seen her come in immediately as a traitor because now we're getting a look at it and it's like, this would have been really fun. You guys missed a massive opportunity. And maybe they're setting it up too. So, like, if people who play next season, where I think it's starting to film in May, hopefully, if they see this, maybe they're hoping that they're just gonna assume if someone comes mid-game that they'll just be a faithful, and then they can make this next person a traitor. But I just am still sad that, like, we didn't get that opportunity with Kate because Kate was, like, the perfect person to do it with. I mean, if they do it with Johnny Bananas next season, like a lot of people have proposed, cool beans. I won't be mad, but, like, that's so obvious to me. Like, that feels way more obvious than if Kate did. So it's just one of those things that I wonder if that's what's being laid out, but that's just my little hypothesis.
Yeah, I was
Did
trying
I
to see if I had
overwhelm
the
you there?
votes,
I
but
was very passionate in that argument.
the votes were very close.
Yes, they were. So it was 4 we got left on the vote at 4-4. And we ultimately technically, we don't know who goes home. In reality, we know, because of context clues.
Well,
And,
context clues, and they didn't exactly cut it at the right part.
so
So, spoiler alert, I'm gonna put the banner up real quick.
please.
Um, spoiler alert. If you don't want spoilers, turn down the volume for a solid, like, minute or 2. Um, but Peter goes home.
It's so obvious, and I just before we even talk about this, Hell's Kitchen got in trouble with this. Not trouble, but they had this issue way back when, and they have listened to people to the fact where they don't spoil things in promos. Because back when you could start, like, fast forwarding and rewinding TV, I was able to find out through a badly cut promo who ended up winning one of the seasons of Hell's Kitchen 4. It was between this girl named Christina and a guy named Petroza. And I was rooting for Petroza. I was super excited. And then all of a sudden they were going to commercial. And as they were doing it, they were showing a cut of the winner celebrating. And I was like, ooh, that's when my sneakiness started, by the way, guys. That's when it started. So I
Like,
went and I scrolled back and I saw it was her. And I was like, I don't want to finish. They haven't spoiled shit like that since on the show, but people got pissed because they were like,
well, like, this show has not been consistent. We don't always
no.
get scenes from next week. Why would you give us scenes from next week on a cliffhanger like this? First of all. Second of all, at the where they cut it was MJ moving her chalkboard over, and they didn't cut it before she started flipping. They cut it after she flipped it and started turning. So if you pause it, you can see Peter's name.
Okay, when we're like editing on TikTok, we can edit so down to the second that we can edit it like to the millisecond that
Mhm.
we can edit it so like just as the screen
And
is
that's from a
flipping, we can
fucking phone
cut.
screen, guys.
Yeah,
A phone screen.
it's not hard.
They're doing this on giant monitors, okay?
They have
So, it
insane
was very,
technology.
like, very irresponsible on their part. However, I will say this, um, I'm here for this. I'm okay with this. I love this. I love this for Phaedra. I love that she has made it through
Yep.
another week. However, I don't know. I'm very curious to see. CT voted against her. So I
Oh,
don't
I
know what
can't
this is
wait.
gonna do, how the fallout's gonna happen post roundtable. Also, who else would they target?
Yeah, well, I mean, that actually leads me into I have questions. So is that what are you talking about, like, who will they target for the murder or the banishment moving forward? Like, what
Who else but Phaedra
Oh,
would
yes.
be up for banishment?
I think that's an incredible question. Um,
'Cause
and
there's no one up for debate right now.
but if there's no one up for debate, that makes me wonder if MJ's name will come up. And maybe it's not that MJ's getting banished, but that, like, everybody's gonna go back and revisit MJ. I don't know. It's because they need somebody else. They'll need somebody else to go after. My guess is that would be it, is that MJ's gonna be next, and MJ's gonna make the mistake of not targeting Phaedra when she had the chance, and that's gonna be the little, like, sad violin, the world's smallest
I don't
violin.
know. I think Phaedra's in trouble for the next week. I still stand by that. I don't think Phaedra makes it to the end. I think Kate's going to be the sole traitor, and I think Kate wins.
Oh, I now knowing Kate is a traitor, I think Kate has the best chance of winning this game,
Yeah.
but I really think that Trishelle and CT have a decent chance of taking it side by side based on what we've seen.
I don't think CT takes Kate serious enough to even consider her a traitor.
But I just wonder if they get down to I think I've mentioned this scenario in the past. So I'm not saying this is gonna happen, but let's assume this is like where my mind goes. So this is like a very specific situation. So I know it's probably not the most, I don't know. But anyways, so let's assume CT and Trishelle get to the finale together, get to the final little banishment ceremony. Um, if both Kate and Phaedra are there together, or if any number of combo of Bravo people are together, I don't think they're gonna trust them, and they have played the challenge to the point where they know how to play a numbers game if you're playing to win something, and I think they'd strategize beforehand, first of all, knowing if they have watched last season and know how that works, they will strategize beforehand, and I think that there's no way that they would want Bravo people standing at the end knowing that they don't trust them because, like, if Phaedra can get there and Trishelle's there, there's no way Trishelle's gonna, like, end the
No,
game.
I don't think
If
Phaedra gets there, but I
if
think if Kate's
Yeah,
there,
and I mean, getting Trishelle out is going to be key. If Phaedra wants to win and if Phaedra does win, she has to get Trishelle out. Letting Trishelle get to the end is game over for her.
yeah.
Full on game over. Um She could be all she I'm trying to think. She could also be somebody I could see get murdered. She doesn't have a shield right now, right? It's only CT. She has to be careful moving into this next week too with the Traitors. John and Trishelle. Those are the
Mhm.
2 big ones. Ugh. Ugh. I think it's still John though. So I have a couple questions going into to kind of speculate for next week. Um So, I was gonna have this in the middle, let's start there. So, who do you think they will murder versus who do you think they should? Go with will first, should second, if you can. Insert
Did
Jeopardy.
anyone get shields?
CT
Oh,
has a
CT
shield.
has a shield. Um,
He probably, in my opinion, wasn't gonna. be getting murdered anyways. As pissed as Phaedra probably is.
I feel like Trishelle's getting murdered.
You know, knowing now, remembering that Trishelle is gonna be vulnerable, I think it's gonna be down to Trishelle and John. Those are the 2 people I think it's gonna be, but I do agree with you. If they do not get Trishelle here, game over. Game over for them, I think, because I think
I mean, it is risky. That's your number 1 accuser. She's already, like, facing next to nothing at the next round table, but yeah, maybe with Trishelle gone, maybe the group, and if they don't have Trishelle or, again, spoiler, turn your stuff down, Peter, then if they don't have Trishelle or Peter, then they might just kinda spin out a little bit, and they
Mhm.
could have a better chance of, getting another target there. So, yeah, I think Trishelle's the one that they're gonna murder, and I support this decision. If they don't get Trishelle, I definitely could see John. I
If
think
it's not Trishelle,
anyone
it's John, in
outside
my
of those 2,
opinion.
though, is a waste at this round.
My hierarchy, I definitely think it's Trishelle. John's a really close second, not close enough to convince me, though. I think the 3rd person would be MJ.
I think
Um,
MJ is the closest thing they have to another viable banishment suspect at the round table.
but I think they haven't been playing their murders the best this season either, so
Yeah.
that's part of what I'm not saying, like, it might be a gut reaction where it's like, like, obviously she didn't go against her, but, like, she considered these things. If Kate goes to, like, Phaedra and tells her that MJ was considering this stuff before banishment. I guess now though that you kind of make me think about that, who might be more actually at risk that I say that, I'll take that back and I'll put more at risk Sandra.
No, that's what I was gonna say. So if I had to think
Or
of anybody who we could pivot the target to, we as in the Traitors could pivot the target to, I think MJ and Sandra are your best bet here.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
I think
I
MJ
think
mi
MJ is your best bet. If
I
not MJ, then
agree.
Sandra. So I wouldn't want to murder them. So I think that your murders really need to stick between Trishelle and John.
Yep, I agree. Okay, what are the other questions I had? How will MJ justify Peter over Phaedra? 'Cause we
Um,
gotta hear we're assuming when she flips it, she could just say, "I'm sorry." But I'm assuming if that's all she says, we will get a confessional, so we're gonna
I
probably
think
hear
it was
one way or
something he
another.
said at the round table that gave her the ick because she had a face on there that was kind of like she had just made a decision. So as they're like
I know which
going
one.
around to everybody at the table, she had a look on her face like something just triggered something in her where she was like it made up her mind in that moment. So I feel like it was something he said.
I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but my guess is gonna be what triggered me and my boyfriend when we watched it is when he was like, "I'm obviously a faithful. I'm playing the most
That.
faithful game out of everybody," and I think that's what's gonna piss her off. It's
Yes.
like, for me, if I was playing the game, I'd be like, "The fuck you aren't. The
Again,
fuck
he's
you aren't."
playing as in Alan came out and announced to everybody he's for sure a faithful.
Literally,
Like, he
literally.
talks like that. He talks like everyone got a card that gave them a clue, and a clue is that Peter is a faithful. He treats everyone like they know for he is faithful without a shadow of a doubt. When we all know now at this point, he got an invitation. If
I think
anything,
it's yeah.
I'm less certain you're a faithful.
I think it's funny how cocky he is and how much people trust him, and it makes me, like, think back to his days on The Bachelor because it's literally that it's just golden boy mentality. That was also how he was treated on The Bachelor, was just this sweet boy with just this sweet background, and then
Ugh.
it was just this very cushy feeling that you got when you were watching him. He got a very cushy edit until things got messy. Um, that's very Peter. This is going a very Peter direction. Like, I feel like his journey on the Traitors has been, like, indicative of his, journey throughout reality television. Like, starting off as a sweetheart and then gaining people's love and then quickly turning into a villain and then skydiving and doing a nosedive into the ground. I'm not trying to be mean, but that was, like, almost his Bachelor journey to a T, so sorry, Peter, but, He's likely to go next week. And then the last question that I have, and I'll at least start while Sarah is on mute for a second. Who do you think is going to be on the hot seat at the next round table? I don't think the heat's going to come off of Phaedra. I do think it's going to stay there. If I'm going to guess who else is going to face heat, I do think MJ, if she stays, will be facing heat. They have to find somebody else to target. And so far, the only people we've really heard that or anybody else's name that's been brought up has been MJ, and I feel like it'd just be most logical for them to revisit it. So that's really where I'm at, and I just think that we have a lot of game left to play with very little time. Kate and Phaedra need to get creative if they want to get people off of Phaedra's trail, because Phaedra, I mean, if she can't get creative for this next
Kate needs to
episode,
wake
she's
up.
done. Yep, Kate needs to fix her shit. I think Kate needs to vote out Phaedra. I think she needs to know that Phaedra's going to be a liability to her winning the game, and at the end of the day, the whole point is to play a game to win, not just to play a game. And if they get there at the end, there's a really, really bad chance that they win, in my opinion. So, I know you're struggling with some stuff right now, so no worries at all.
Sorry.
It's not even remotely. I just wanted people to know that that's why I'm accidentally rambling, just because Sarah, of course, right as we're trying to wrap, we've got this going. But is there anything else you want to add, especially while you're off mute?
No. I'm excited to see this episode.
I know.
I'm excited for this finale.
It's gonna be worth it, and then I'm also really ready for this reunion. The reunion's gonna be a fucking mess. And,
Yes.
like
Yes.
Tamara, I don't know if I'll leave us on this note. I just saw today while doing some work, Parvati was on Johnny Bananas' podcast, and, like, I don't really remember what comment was made. Something negative about Tamara and the housewives, though. Or the housewives, I can't remember. And Tamara was like, "Who even knows Parvati?" And people literally were like, "I'm sorry, girly, no, you don't get to say that, because Parvati is easily one of the most influential women in reality television history, full stop." And it's not saying you aren't, Tamara Judge, but let's be real. There were 2.9 million people watching when she won.
I'm very excited that we have a Survivor 46 draft coming up, and I'm really excited that there's someone on that cast whose favorite players of all time are Sandra and Parvati.
I'm literally so stoked. That episode will be coming out after this one, by the way. We're actually literally going right from this podcast to that podcast, so it's going to be quite a shift. But with that, we'll actually wrap up this episode of Wicked Unscripted. So if you like what you hear, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. I got to get that in a more easy way to get out of my mouth. Flip it around. But we are also regularly posting on TikTok, if you didn't notice in our conversations. So make sure you follow us at It's Abigail Adams, Sarah Talks Big Brother, and Wicked Unscripted. For the third week in a row, I have to unlock that fucking account. But we'll get it, honestly. We will make sure it's unlocked for Survivor season, because just based off of this cast, holy shit, I think we're going to have some incredible podcasts coming up.
Yeah.
And also, whenever Traitor season 3 comes out, we will be on that shit, and I think that's coming this fall. So super, super excited. Got lots to look forward to moving forward. If you want updates on there, you can also follow us on Twitter. I'm still It's Abigail Adams there. She is Super Sarah over there. But you can still look up Sarah Talks Big Brother and it will still show up. So don't even worry. But if you want to ask us a question, share your thoughts, or leave us a tip, just email the podcast at wickedunscriptedpod, P-O-D, at gmail.com for more. That is wickedunscriptedpod, P-O-D, at gmail.com for more. We're looking for fresh and diverse voices always to join the conversation. So with that, we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.